Recognize the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Hice, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I think, Ms. Bresch, you've had a lot of questions today and a lot of pressure put on you. I appreciate you coming. I'm personally very hesitant to go down the path of government getting involved in what individuals make and can't make. This is a free enterprise system, and I get very worried when we start going down that tree. My concern is where the bottleneck is occurring, and Dr. Throckmorton, I'd like to ask you, an abbreviated new drug application, as I understand it, is an application when companies want to manufacture a generic drug. That's what they must utilize. Is that correct?
For a true generic, so
Sure.
an authorized generic like we've been talking about up to now, that's not approved under that
Okay,
statute,
but a true generic. Do you know how many abbreviated new drug applications are currently pending with the FDA?
We have 1,700 responses that we've sent back to sponsors requesting additional information. We're waiting for that information to come back. There are other applications that are in-house that we're reviewing, again, on the timeline that we've discussed earlier.
It's my understanding that the generic applications submitted to the FDA are outpacing those applications that are approved 3 to 1. Is that correct?
I can't verify that number. There are 2,300 applications before the agency, and this
2,400?
2,300.
Yeah, okay,
This year we've approved 600 products through the middle of this year.
Okay, could you verify for me? Could you get the numbers back to us? What the number of applications submitted versus those that are being approved? And can you tell me the median approval time for generic drugs right now?
I don't have that information before me. It's also changing. So in the period before GDUFA 1, before we got the User Fee Act,
I'm talking about now. I would like that information as well.
I'd offer to get you the trend if I could. I think that would probably be more useful.
Okay, because the Generic Pharmaceutical Association says it's taking 47 months. Yeah. It's taking 4 years.
Yeah, that's simply misunderstanding. And I'd be happy.
What do you mean that's misunderstanding? Is
47 months is from the beginning of GDUFA 1, from the beginning of the User Fee Act. So any products that are being approved now that have been
all right, from beginning of the process to the end of the process, are you disputing that it takes 4 years?
I'm disputing that for products that come in today, it will not take 47 months.
Well, I mean, you can make all sorts of promises. I'm talking about realistically, for those who have been trying, they've been trying for 4 years from the time they start to the time they finish.
There are products that come in and are sometimes insufficient to get approval. Sometimes that's because the data that they've submitted aren't appropriate.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't want to run around the bush. I'm trying to find out how long does it take from beginning to end. And from those that have been involved in the process, they're telling us it takes 4 years. Now, since 2012, the generic manufacturers, of course, they've been paying fees to the tune of billions of dollars to try to speed the process up through the generic drug user fee agreement. And this past July, as I understand it, the FDA actually said that they had acted on more than 90% of the generic applications. I'm assuming that's a little bit of what you're referring to now.
That's the backlog, the applications that have been submitted to us.
The backlog is 90%?
Prior to the beginning of GDUFA 1, there was a total of around 4,600 applications that we needed to review. We've acted on more than 90% of those. In fact, there are fewer than 100 of them that have not gotten a response.
All right, so are you saying of the 4,600, there's only 100 left, that 4,500 have been approved?
Less than 100 of them remain to have a response. Again, some of those products that have a full dossier, have given us the data that we need, have been approved or given tentative approval. Products that are not sufficient, that haven't met the data needs for us, I don't think you'd want us to rubber stamp those.
No, I don't want to rubber stamp, but the process is bottlenecked. That is the frustrating. The free enterprise system works when you've got multiple companies out there offering products and options for people. We have a scenario now that EpiPen basically, you've got 94% of the market, whatever, and you're the only major player. And the reason for that is because you guys are not processing a host of others who are trying to get in the market, and when it's taking 3, 4, 5 years for that to occur, and who knows how many millions of dollars to go through the process. I mean, no wonder the whole system is not working.
I'd like to show you the trend data. That is not the trend that we're seeing for the cohort that are being, the applications.
The European counterpart only has 24 generic drugs awaiting approval, and they do it from beginning to end in less than a year. That is not what we're experiencing here.
The European system is quite different from ours.
Well, it must be,
And the
because
sheer
it's not
scope is quite
taking
different.
nearly as long as ours does.
I would say they are apples and oranges to try to compare, honestly.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my time's expired, and I yield back. But yes, we've got tremendous concerns with the drug going from $100 to $600, and there's issues that y'all have got to deal with. But we can't place all the blame on you. The FDA has got to get their act together and start working the process and getting this thing going through. And I look forward to receiving the information that you said you would send. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hice. We'll now recognize the gentleman